favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast? The Guys Gunner podcast.
Freedom of choice.
From a young age, Robert Potter has been on an unrelenting quest for truth, driven by profound questions about existence, decades of exploration into the realms of ancient history, extraterrestrial encounters, and the transformative power of advanced healing technologies. Before we get into this podcast with Robert Potter, I just wanted to give a little bit of backstory as to how we connected, what the intention was going in, and who he is. So first of all, how we got connected. I was going on a road trip across the states, headed through the area of Mount Shasta, and I reached out to all the different Mount Shasta communities. Robert had reached out. He has done conventions every year, as far as I'm aware, for the past 11 years in Mount Shasta. I asked how many people showed up to his convention this year, and it was over 250 people. When I went to Robert's house, the intention that I had going into this podcast was to find truth. I am not interested in anything but the truth. I don't want to believe anything just because it's cool. I want the cold, hard facts, baby. Cold, hard facts. Take it in chunks if you need to. Stop the podcast and research. Come back and digest it properly. I hope that I was able to facilitate a piece of content that made you feel comfortable and confident enough to have an open mind and learn and grow together. Episode 3 of the Geist Gunner podcast with Robert Potter. Let's get into it. All right, we are here. I'm happy to be with you, Robert.
Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, thank you for coming to Mount Shasta, California.
Yeah, it's super beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, right as we went over the pass and was able to see it, I was researching a bunch of little things online and learning lots more about it. And when we were down by the lake at one of the campsites, we were in the water doing some breath work and stuff.
Oh, yeah?
And I definitely felt, I don't know, whether it was all of the talk and all the things that I studied about it and or the connection of the actual area, it's a really soothing or really meditative place to come. Like we had heard that the nearest airport even is like 4 hours away or something like that.
No, there's a small one in Redding.
Okay.
And there's a little like, you can have, a prop plane could land like about 18 miles away. Just a little tiny airport. You pass it.
Okay. Yeah. More of a retreat type of place though in general though, hey?
Special. It's right off the 5. You can drive up to the mountain at 9,000 feet. So here we have a tremendous, amount of nature. It's a huge vortex. There's a lot of the history here. It started, I'll say, 30,000 years ago in terms of what we're talking about. There was a continent called Lemuria and Atlantis, and 30,000 years ago, there's a series of wars and devastation, but the big one ended in, as I said, I'll say it again, I guess, 30,000 years ago, a continent in Lemuria. It's in the Pacific Ocean. We see now Hawaii, the Cook Islands, Easter Island, Fiji. They're remnants of this ancient continent. And they got involved with some negative technology. And there were some, I'll call them anti-Pleiadians here. There's basically some turf wars and battles going on a larger interstellar type of level. And fortunately, the continent of Lemuria sunk, and they were trying to bring in like an asteroid, and it's like mutually assured destruction. Basically, it came down upon themselves, and in 24 hours, 64 million souls were lost.
64 million connected to Lemuria?
Lemuria, the entire continent sank. The pressure, it broke out. There were gas chambers underneath, and that's why all of the Easter Island statues and all those statues in Peru have a tear in their eye. Some of them have a hat. That's was the great loss, and that is embedded in the human history, the memory. Same thing in Atlantis. There's different stories. I know certain aspects of it for sure. At that time, the Earth was different. There was open communication with different extraterrestrials. I'll just say, not alone, never have been alone, never will be alone. And we're just hidden from the truth. And right now, we're moving towards a new time where this is going to be revealed. And I'm very honored that in my life I've had many wonderful experiences, physical, with extraterrestrials. I've met them face to face on many occasions in many places. And I'm honored if I keep my integrity to be a postman to deliver a message directly from them. This is not channeling. This is not hokum. I'm not a liar. And I have real experiences. I've been doing this for 50 years, since I'm 67 now. And I have had face-to-face meetings with Pleiadians and mostly Venusians now. The message is to not to listen to spaceships or to follow them or anything, but to be aware of the spiritual nature. It's not silver spaceships and spacesuits. That's not the message here. The message is, look at yourselves, people. Humanity, look around you. Look at your so-called leaders. Today we just heard that President Trump was shot. My information, he's been dead for a couple of years now. And this was predicted that this would take place. And who knows where they're trying to drive this. They've claimed a lot of people have been shot and killed in the past. And this is a political hot potato. And people are going to go, oh my God, turn that guy off now. Sorry, folks. If you can't take, you can't take some of the new information, and the truth will be revealed at some point. But there's a lot of things going on here, and you look around and you just go, what's going on? So
touching on that, like already that was so much amazing stuff. So many different things to touch on with the different extraterrestrial beings that you've had relations relative to, with some of the things in culture with like Trump and Biden, and if they're body doubles or if they're cloning or whatever, that will be interesting to get into. But you also mentioned Lemuria, and I think I would like to start there and connect it to Mount Shasta, because the first thing that comes up when you Google Mount Shasta top 10 facts, one of them is the lure, the mythology, or the information related to Lemuria, the ancient, like everyone around here, when I ask them, have you ever had spiritual experiences or do you know much about the Mount Shasta, spiritual connection and whatnot? They're like, oh, the Lemurians. Everyone that I talked to almost while we were at the beach and everywhere else were saying Lemurians. And they kind of didn't really know what they're saying, but they're like, that's a buzzword that everyone was using. And I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are and perspectives are on what is on the Wikipedia for Mount Shasta, which is something to the respect of Mount Shasta is a place that beings, perhaps the Lemurians, have some sort of an inner earth base within, and there's UFOs spotted coming in and out, something along the lines of that. And people have had experiences related to that. That's kind of what I've got off of the Wikipedia page and a couple of the first links there. So that's what everyone would get when they Google Mount Shasta. What's your experience while you've lived in Mount Shasta, experienced things in Mount Shasta, all of that, and or any details in the Lemurians?
First time I came to Mount Shasta, a friend of mine was connected and had a place for me to stay. I was living in Laguna Beach, California, and I came up here and I stayed at a place called Morningstar. One of the highest properties on the mountain in the middle, surrounded by national forest. It's called Morningstar, and that's Venus. Okay, and that's the planet associated with Christ. He said, I am the bright and early morning star. Some people say, well, Lucifer is the morning star. That was another planet that's now the asteroid that was exploded. It was called a super Earth. So that's the history of our galaxy. We've had another morning star, but now it's Venus. And the Venusians are very long-lived, and they actually had a colony on Lemuria. Now, they were not as involved in the materialism, and there were elements of them that were in the interaction. There were extraterrestrials from many different worlds here with different looks, and there was a lot of conflicting cultures and ideologies. And the Venusians knew that bad things were going to come. So they prepared, and they came here to Mount Shasta, and they began to build an underground city. It was, third dimensional. They're kind of fourth dimension is time, so they did have some advanced technology then, and they were building it out. Now we go down to South America as well, because this is where some Lemurians went as well. Cusco, which is now at 12,000 feet, used to be a seaport. And now it's 12,000 feet. So when you hear a story, very slowly the subaction of the plates and the mountains come down, and it was a cataclysm. Boom, everything shifted. So that's what happened. So down in the giant megalithic sites down in Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, I've been down there in Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Cusco, these giant blocks, very similar to the pyramids. We call them megalithic sites, Pumapunku, Machu Picchu. I've been to these places, I've investigated them, and I've had contacts with extraterrestrial ships on tours where we go to meet them. And I can tell you that when I asked the Venusians, they said that the Lemurians are an ancient Venusian colony now cloaked in the fifth dimension. They have raised up to a higher frequency. So that's where all that comes. It started 30,000 years ago. And so the Native Americans and people throughout, that's a long time, right? They've remained inside the earth since what we call the cataclysm.
So to summarize that, you said that the Lemurians are fifth dimensional beings?
Fifth dimensional, yeah.
That started building a base underneath Mount Shasta.
Prior to the final cataclysm, 30,000 years.
Which was relative to Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yes. Yeah.
What caused the cataclysm?
Greed, materialism, misuse of power, just like we're seeing today. We're still talking about war, and the people from the War College say this and this and that. It's over, folks. Not going to be allowed. The Galactic Federation of Light is stepping in along with other super federations, and the entire system of the earth that was run by fallen beings. You talk about Lucifer and Sataniel. These are actual beings from higher dimensions that fell. You could call them, they're not gods. We would look at them as demigods because they're from a higher dimension, and they literally, we could call them even ascended masters, but they had misused their power. So they had sex with humans, and that was a violation. That's in the Bible as well. The Bible's a pretty good historical document. There's a lot of errors, a lot of confusion, but there is a reality to a lot of that information.
With the Bible, touching on that, what is your spiritual perspective on what the Bible is? Because from the context that I've viewed the Bible as, I've studied a lot of different religions. A few years ago, or after I got out of high school, I'm only 21 now, but I was 17. I had 3 years where I'm in a small town of 4,000 people. I had a job at a supplement shop, and I just spent a lot of time researching as many things that nobody else was educating me on.
Smart.
Yeah. And so
a
lot of those things were related to fundamental, relevant, innovative, taboo things, extraterrestrials, ancient civilizations, a lot of these things. And so compiling, and then obviously religions and whatnot, right? So compiling this information, and in my experience of developing kind of a polymathic brain, I feel like I've had experience looking at the, Buddhist perspectives and philosophies and whatnot, and the Christian, and lots of different of that regard. And I have friends who are from different perspectives, and I've done some things on video chat sites and in-person interviews, and customers who've gone through that supplement store that I managed. And I'm constantly talking about whatever I'm learning and getting their perspective on things and whatnot.
That's the way to do it. That's what I learned.
Yeah. So related back to the Bible and Christianity and all of those books of wisdom, the way that I have viewed it up until this point is I think it's such a beautiful book of wisdom and such a beautiful book to be able to take the philosophies of and utilize to build a life upon those foundations, right? People can really use the texts in there, the wisdom that was coming from ancient tablets and whatnot, even before the Bible's time, that have been collected from all over the earth, into that book of wisdom. And I think that's beautiful. What are your thoughts on how you perceive the Bible, how you and or people you know utilize the Bible in an effective way to you? And how do you relate to that, given your spiritual standpoint in life?
Well, let's look at religion. It comes from the Latin religere, to reunite. Okay? Let's look at the word yoga. In India, it means union. So we're reuniting union with our divine self. The divine mind and the gift of God and the I am presence of what I would call the Christ consciousness. You could call it the Krishna consciousness or the Buddha consciousness. It's the true nature of understanding the reality of existence. And that information has been hidden from mankind. It's been very carefully removed from our understanding, and there have been those who have placed themselves to interpret the teachings of various, let's call them very advanced souls who came to seek certain truths. God has a divine and a perfect plan, and it's unfolding as it should, whether we realize it. Even though we've had these fallen beings in control of the earth for a very long time, there has always been the spirit of truth. So let's talk about the Bible as a historical document, the Old Testament. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The Word means logos, or the beginning. And I'll explain to you, I took philosophy, and I was searching too, like you. I did the same thing. I'm learning something. I tell someone and see what they say, and they ask me questions, and I research more, and I kind of got a deeper understanding. And in my conversations with the head of the Galactic Federation, who's the Queen of Venus, and the Solar Council, and there's really a Solar Council. It's hard to believe, folks, but yeah, there's life all off the solar system, on the moons. It's crazy. When you wake up to that, how much has been hidden from you, and what the governments have been doing, and how they've taken your money and your energy. Money represents energy. How they've misused it. You're going to go, what the mother, father, God have they been doing? So you're going to realize that these families that control and the elites of the world, you don't even know their names. They're from families that are hidden. They control all the world's money, all the things, because they have been in league with principalities and powers that have managed how human energy is received and moved. And we've been under a Wizard of Oz scenario of control and manipulation. So the Bible certainly has been used by others to manipulate and control, and yet the truth of God and what we call the ascended master teachings, or the reality of the true nature of the universe, is infinite. And I'm going to talk about God as the knower, the knowing, and the known, and the unknowable. Okay, your mind can't conceive the infinite. So let's take the material creation and we look at the Hubble telescope, and now we see, oh my God, you look and there's billions of galaxies. They can go out, they go to a free area of space, and all you see are galaxies. And it looks like stars, but you look closer, those are galaxies. Okay, imagine we have 200 million suns in this galaxy alone. So I'm going to give you a little perspective. I worked with a nuclear physicist who was studying the shockwave of the atomic bomb, Fred Bell. He was conscripted to the Air Force at 16, which was illegal, got a PhD in physics at 17. At the age of 20, he was in charge of the world's top radar. His uncle invented the telephone. His father invented the automatic transmission.
What did you work with him for?
His name is Fred Bell. I was into pyramids, and in high school, I was talking to someone about pyramids, and the girl goes, "Hey, Robbie, I know the Pyramid Man." And I swear to God, I said, "The Pyramid Man? Really? You know the Pyramid Man?" So she goes, "Yeah, let's up on the Santa Ana Street." So I went up there and I met the guy. He wasn't there, and when I met him, he was coming in.
You got your pyramids
from the first gold pyramid, and we decided what you do is you put this thing on your head. So the pyramid is pyramid, fire in the middle. I'll get back to the religion in a second. So the pyramid was built 13,500 years ago, but it's a universal principle that when a pyramid is facing perpendicular to magnetic north, it rings, sings, and hums. The definition of a pyramid is progressive energy transfer through geometric focusing and dynamic electrical amplification over a measured plane of coordinates. The pyramid's principle is a principle of matter-made flesh. There is an aura in here, a life force aura. The only thing else that has aura is alive. Amoeba, everything that's alive has an aura. A tree is alive, so it has an aura. Metal is not alive. It doesn't have an aura. But when it's a pyramid, I can show you an image. It's an incredible image of a double vortex and pyramids. And so the pyramid has a life force energy. The universe is made of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. We go back, and after the fall, we thought of it, the four directions: earth, east, north, south, earth, air, water, fire. So these are the four building blocks. Everything in the physical material universe is a combination. 6 carbon, 2 oxygen. Everything is made from these four elements. So this is the nature of the sacred geometry of the perfect divine expression of God. Everything is perfect. The pyramid, the base divided by the height equals pi. That is a number that progresses to infinity. It's never perfect. It's always an odd number. So it's like, 1, 1, 3, 5, 8, right? So 13. So this number is a famous mean, the spiral that Da Vinci had.
Yeah.
So we see this progression. And when the founding fathers, who were good Masons, there's good and bad Masons, there's good Illuminati and bad Illuminati. When they made the pyramid is the number that progresses to infinity, which would be the financial system, should be built on prosperity and abundance. It's been controlled by and manipulated into scarcity and lack. And the Venusians have been teaching me a lot about this. The woman I met Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Thomas Paine, and many others in the American French Revolution. And they've been guiding the earth just as they guided us back in the times of Greece with Aphrodite and Eros. And you have back in the Egyptian times, there's always been this interaction hidden behind the scenes, pretty much for 16,000 years. So we see this sacred geometry, and I'm going to talk about God now. So this kind of represents God. So in the beginning was nothing. You think of the void, that's nothing. And then there's God. So God is one point, and you can't conceive it because you can't understand it, but it was by himself. And I got this vision. They took me out of my body when I was very young and showed me many things. And I was like God for a moment. And it seemed like everything was very lonely. It was like, I'm bored. So God separated himself. So the moment that the divine oneness separated into the masculine and feminine, the two became the three, because there's one point here, one here, and then there's a relationship between them. That's called dharma. So now you have the one became the two, and there's a relationship. So you have the Trinity. It's known as Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or in the Hindu religion, Creator, Preserver, Destroyer. Or in the Hindus, it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
What do you think that the universe created itself for? Would you say it was to experience polarity?
It's unknowable, bro.
Yeah.
No
experience polarity, experience pleasure, something along those mysterious.
No one can explain God. Anyone attempt to do so is trying to cloak their ignorance in pompous expression. It's the infinite. All you can do is revel in the sacredness and the power of God Almighty and the presence and the divinity. And this is where the messages of the world teachers are really the same. And you got the phrase, I'm a Muslim. Stop it. Get over yourself. I just want to slap you around a little bit and tell you that we're all one people.
Religion tends to do that, hey? There tends to be, in the nature of religions, lots of different sects of people in different geographic and time locations where they've come up with a certain amount of sacred knowledge and a certain amount of rituals and all of those things related to their culture and to their religion. And then there seems to be, an innate level of tension relative to
based on ego, competition, and God. And so if God is the most important thing, so I'm going to be a speaker for God, and I'm going to be the man, and I'm going to tell you what God wants and thinks. Of course, no one can tell you that.
Would you say
it's within you as you?
Would you consider yourself spiritual?
Spiritual, not religious. I take the religion. You got the sweet baby Jesus, okay? And you got the religious dogma, okay? You got the bathwater of dogma and ritual, the incense, and the Pope, the poop, whatever you want to call these guys. You got the Catholics standing up. I went to a wedding. It's 4 hours up on your knees, sitting down, and all this stupid ritual. Christ was fighting the authorities. Back in his day, the authorities were the Jewish chosen Sanhedrin, with a lot of onerous, stupid laws and ridiculous things going on. In fact, in a book, where I don't know where I put it.
Is it one of these guys?
No, actually, it's the Gospel of Thomas that my friend wrote. But anyway, in that book, Jesus was, when he was young, okay, Thomas, I'm going to blow some minds here. We'll get back to God and the other thing, religion in a minute. So Jesus was 7 years old, and he had a twin brother. Oh, my goodness, that's going to blow people away. Why did they take that out? It didn't go with the virgin birth in their mind, so they took that out. They took out that he was married to Mary Magdalene with 2 kids. He called him rabbi. To be rabbi in those days, you had to have a wife and children. You couldn't be a rabbi unless you had a wife and children. That's a fact. So they took that out. And I'll just tell you, I asked the security chief, 2,400 years old, born under Darius Great, the High Magus beekeeper. I'll show you a picture of him a little bit. But I said, you walked with Christ, didn't you? He said, yeah, the master never needed our help. He proved his love for humanity by his sacrifice, and he proved his divinity by his resurrection. Well, check this out. At 7 years old, he's down by the ford of the stream, and there's a bird there. It's a Sabbath. So he jumps in the water, and he goes, oh, and Thomas goes, oh, look, I think he's broken his wing. So Jesus grabs some mud, and he starts to put it on the thing. And then all the people see him, and one of the Sanhedrin's son was over, and they all start running. What are you doing? It's the Sabbath. What are you supposed to do? He says, and Joe says, son, what are you doing? He says, I was just healing this little bird. So he threw it up in the air, and then a little bit later, Annas, his son, tried to get in a fight with him, and he was raising a stick, and Thomas was going to go to protect him, and he fell dead, and everyone saw it. So he just said, no, he's not dead. He's sleeping. He said, get up, bully. So he was raising people from the age of the dead. There were people in Joseph, when he was a carpenter, people were dying. And if anyone had a problem or dying, a kid got hit by an arc, was bleeding out blood, and Jesus healed him. Mm-hmm. So this kid was getting major press at an early age. These were accentuation points to the ministry of who he was. So now I'll explain to you from a kind of cosmogenesis who Christ was. We look out and we see galaxies. Each of these galaxies have creators. They are called creator sons. Now, they are not, we want to think of them anthropologically as a human or a being, but it's a pure creative essence. It's both masculine and feminine. Our image of them would be, as the Bible says, Archangel Michael, the theophanic angel, the one like unto God. And I want to say that you yourself are also a creator angel, because you have millions of life within you, and you are in the image of the Father. You have 7 endocrine glands. You have 7 electromagnetic centers or chakras. And in a prism, you have a prism of 7 levels of pyramid energy. You have 7 notes of the musical scale. Halftones make the octave of 13. So you have 12 meridians. There's all the sacred geometry of life frequency and the perfection of the expression of who we are as souls. We are spirit spark sons of the living word of God, and it is our duty to live and grow in love. So we see the creator son, and he created this galaxy, and he lives, we are part in his being. He is like the living word. So you look at billions of galaxies, there's billions of creator sons. And this creator son must incarnate on all 7 levels of his own creation. So the physical plane, the dense material world in which we live, is where the creator chose to incarnate. So let's go back to Venus. 24 million years ago, Venus, the people of Venus were living in a solar system called Tau Ceti. And that world was going to have problems, and they knew there was a cataclysm. So the entire civilization was dedicated for 2,000 years to creating space travel. They got their spaceships, and they bought all the people, and they seeded the galaxy. Some landed on Jupiter, Mars, and they were going to come to Earth, but there was a lemur species here. And so they went to Venus.
Lemur species?
Yeah.
Does that stand for something? You mean lemurs?
Yeah, lemurs. That's where Lemuria comes from. It's a native population that.
Oh, okay. Not actual lemurs.
They were actually lemurs, and they evolved into humans. Yeah.
Lemurs?
Uh-huh.
Like, and that was the species of
Mhm.
Lumerians?
Little lemurs.
So Lumerians were lemurs, and they evolved.
Long time ago.
Lumerians were lemurs. So it was a civilization that actually went through evolution, an evolutionary process, starting off as lemurs and into humans.
Yeah, it's talking, like 20 million years, 24 million years ago.
I have two questions. I have one related to evolution on that. I also have one about Jesus. But first of all, I'm curious, is this doing anything besides being a really cool hat? Like, is this copper or
That's steel frame with nickel and gold.
okay?
And that's a relaxer. The one I'm wearing has nickel, gold, and copper.
Okay.
See, the gold molecule looks like this. Why do people value gold? You ever seen a real diamond? That's what it looks like. Why do people value copper? Because this is what the copper molecule looks like.
So you think it's the sacred geometry of its formation? It's not something
It has
about
a
like
frequency and energy.
us mining gold and our DNA being.
Gold is a superconductor. It's one of the most valuable. It acts as a Faraday shield and all kinds of things.
One of those theories or one of those thoughts on ancient civilization and the whole one, like I think is it the gene 23 or something of that regard? One of them was edited. You know what I'm talking about? The DNA strand that had editing done to it.
There's 120 extraterrestrial species involved in the human DNA. One of the most influential was 425,000 years ago. There was a planet in the Sirius system that somehow lost its orbit. It's called Nibiru, and it started floating through space.
Okay.
And I don't know the time period of that, but it got here 425,000. So they were floating in space. They didn't have any sun. It was hard for them to live. And they got caught in our solar system, and they needed to mine gold. And they came here.
So this, yes.
The lemurs had already developed, and the civilization had fallen, and we were Cro-Magnons at that point. We had already destroyed ourselves in a previous epoch. Okay. And we had put nuclear radiation on the planet. There was basically a bunch of cavemen running around.
Okay.
And they saw that some of them were curious as they manned their spaceships. And these are beings in higher dimensions. They created physical bodies to inhabit. They can create avatars, just like movie Avatar. They create Avatar. It's
my favorite movie.
And they were mining gold, and they were like, this is so hard. So they decided to create a human to enhance the human genetics.
To mine gold for them.
Yes, and to so they could create some very quickly, and they tried a hermaphrodite that wouldn't work, and then they tried an asexual one, and they found out that it had to be male and female. And there was two lines, an E and L line and an E and K line. One was more spiritual and actually evolved, and on a certain level was successful and evolved into a higher dimension. There are aspects of that line that fell. That's a very complicated. I don't really want to go too much into that.
Right.
But there's a lot of history there that just shows you that we're not alone and that we're completely ignorant of what's going on. And when you realize, and it's going to come in the next few years, ladies and gentlemen, there's tremendous changes coming on the planet. We're moving into a golden age, whether we know it or not. The bad guys have been rooted out. The influence of the fallen angels is very limited. They're still here. There's still some process for us to go through. But as mankind comes to understand that the message of Christ is the highest message, because he took all the 10 laws, don't do this, don't kill, There's 2 laws. See God in everyone and everything. Know that God is everywhere. And do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. It's that simple. Whoa, if we could only do that. That ain't going to work for the religious people, is it? They're going to sit up there in their bully picket, the religious hucksters, the bellicose militarists, the greedy financiers, all of these people engrossed in materialism. Instead of, you don't take money with you. You don't take anything material. The true gold that you mine here in your incarnation, which is so small. and you've been around before. Your soul is infinite, and you're here for a short period of time on this very difficult planet. It's like going into the fourth corner and you're behind by 20. You're coming to Earth and you're just going to get the living hell knocked out of you, but you're going to learn a lot if you can figure it out. So this is a planet that's sought after to be here at this time, because the Earth is going to shift from complete ignorance and darkness. We are going to go through a tremendous transformation into the golden age. And this has many cycles. And when you realize when the spaceships come, and these things are massive, massive. I've seen one, they lit up the lights from San Clemente to Newport, looking on the hill. They went, and we were like, whoa. He said they're going to do a demonstration. And these were the Andromedans. And these, they were in the Earth's atmosphere. And that's like a third, I'm going to say 30-mile mothership.
So we were, and so just to be clear, these are like, they're demonstrations of sacred geometry, and then they're fun hats. It's not doing anything like except to my brain.
Your head is in the king's chamber. The pyramid. I got a video. If I got a meter, I could show you. You could put our phones together and go beep 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 beep. I have the meter here. Beep 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 beep.
So it is creating energy inside of it.
It's a Faraday cage. It blocks stray microwaves. The government sends killing waves to you on your electrical system to suppress your energy.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Yeah,
because these glasses are Bluetooth, right? And so like I like wearing
stop
them.
Recording me on this glasses.
Even though we're recording right now.
Yeah, that's okay. He goes into like government agencies and records them.
You think that's what I do with these glasses?
I don't know.
On my incog? No, but what my point was that they're Bluetooth, right? And so like I'm wearing them all day and it's fine and dandy, and then I can like take photos and stuff. But they're just sending a Bluetooth signal to my forehead all day, which is kind of an interesting thing, right?
Bluetooth originally invented by a Swedish guy named Ericsson, was to do RF frequencies, which is not as harmful as microwaves. So the whole 5G thing is basically a plan to manipulate and control smart meters, all that stuff. I can tell you now that entire system, unbeknownst to mankind, has been taken down and had its teeth knocked out in a series of lawful enforcement activities, because these ancient covenants, which allowed Lucifer and the fallen cherubim and seraphim and Elohim that were in charge of the earth, were actually connected to the antimatter universe of darkness, are ended. And darkness cannot create light. The Venetians, when I asked them all the political questions, they said, Rob, don't obsess on the darkness. We have that well under control. They said it's the light that pushes out the darkness. I said, what about the pole shift? They said that happens every 5,000 years and it's 400 years away. I'm going to put this over here. Oh, wait. Just very important folks.
Could I put them over here just in case?
Okay, those are the receptors and projectors created by.
Actually, do you want to touch on them now? And then
we're jumping around so much.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about. So the creator has to make an incarnation. So on Venus, many millions of years ago, in the physical plane, there were 4 brothers, and they incarnated. They became ascended masters. One of them was known as Sunat Kumara. He's spoken of in the ancient Hindu text, and he's a world teacher for millions of years. And so he was chosen to hold the Creator's Son 2,000 years ago. So he was a very special incarnation, the highest possible incarnation in the entire physical universe. Krishna was a very powerful, great being. And you talk about the ancient battle, he came from Sirius, a moon of Sirius. And when you're on a moon, you have blue skin. Same thing in our solar system.
When you're on a moon?
When you live on a moon, you have blue skin and blue hair. If you're native and you're there a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of universal thing about moons. Little space medicine for you.
Okay. That's interesting. Something that I've had since I was like littler. I don't know what this is about. I talked to you about it prior, but in like 9th grade in our class, we could have done any type of project as far as like these clay model thingies. And for whatever reason, I wanted to make this blue alien with big eyes and a like gray spacesuit thing. And then I got a channeling session a few years ago, just out of curiosity, seeing what she would say. She said I was connected. I don't remember if she said Arcturians or Pleiadians or whichever one that is. Is it which one is it? So, maybe
I don't know.
You don't know. There's
I wouldn't
lots
know
of
who you're
civilizations,
connected
supposedly.
to, but we're all connected together because of the web of life.
Yeah. So
circle.
So my question would be, I'm very fascinated by past lives and how that could fit into reality. I'm very fascinated by energetic connections to different people and what that might be relative to, and why I might have a stronger connection to particular, maybe it's a race or something of that regard. Like, do you have a stronger connection to the Venusians over other beings? Or do you have any thoughts or perspectives on how past lives are related in
Those are good questions. And again, we're going into like deep metaphysical subjects. So in reality, there is no time. Everything is happening at once.
Right.
Everything is in a constant state of change.
Right.
And we're experiencing it from our infinite selves who are all the same being. We are one another, all part of one being. Everything you see is part of God. Everyone goes, where's God? I say, where is not?
Absolutely.
Where's God not?
Absolutely.
Even in the darkness, there is God. God created duality and choice. And the universe corrects itself, and even after 3 million years of the Satonian rebellion, the entire galaxy is in a golden age. And all the dark universes that used to go dark, neutral, light, neutral, dark, there were these different ages that would come up, and there was control, and it was part of the process. And some beings rebelled against that process. And it was on the sea of glass in a world, and Lucifer argued, and he took 1/3 of the galaxy in the higher dimensional beings, went down, and it's caused a lot of pain and suffering. A lot of them have been redeemed, and that understanding. So let me explain. You have eight yous. There's 8 parallel universes. There are 8 Earths.
Okay.
Not only that, in our solar system, we maybe have 60 planets in the higher dimensions, in the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension. We can't even see them.
Okay.
So we're looking down here. We see, 12 planets, right? And by the way, Pluto's a planet. It has its own moon. I'm fighting for that. You're thinking, it's not a planet. It has moons. By God, it's a planet. So
we got to stand up for the short kings.
For the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of amazing things out there. And, I've had so much experience in my 50 years as a face-to-face contactee, and the things I've learned and the people I've connected to. And a lot of it has to do with night classes and out-of-body experiences. And astral. In the beginning, I was just going out of my body every night. They were taking me up. I watch the earth dark, and I was just shown things, and I never knew I didn't really start speaking publicly till I'm 52.
Oh, really? So you never started speaking publicly?
People just thought I was crazy.
Okay. But now, professionally taking it on seriously started at 52, and you're now...
Yeah, 2012, people started to, I was going, there's so much nonsense out there, I had to speak. Oh, we're going to ascend. This is a big word, the 5th dimension, and they're well-intended, but that's not happening. Look around you. Take a look at TikTok. Let's just take a look at the debate between the rubber mask-wearing fake Trump and the dead guy Biden. That scripted show, and what they're doing now is just incite. They want to incite confusion, fear, and hatred, and to make you look at the political system like it matters. It does not matter. What matters is you. They've never done anything for you. They had billions of dollars to create wars of destruction, but they couldn't give money to black schools and the projects to make them equal. They couldn't we couldn't suck a straw in the ocean and the valley. They had to put in the dams and spray chemicals. They're trying to kill you. These are elite families, they're not humans. They're hybrids of fallen beings. That's the bottom line. And when people wake up to that, it's not, we don't want to, punish them or go on a witch hunt for the Anunnaki, but they're around. I'd like to see them arrested, but they're going to run into insignificance because they have no money, they have no power, and all they do is create a military system where everyone gets orders from the top down, and the top down was Satan. Okay, and he controlled everything. Energetically, they had technology and computers and systems. They were all set to turn you into a little slave camp and a robot and a microchip. Flip a switch and you're dead.
Is Satan in
Thanks
this?
for that.
Is Satan in this? In that
Sataniel, a sixth-dimensional being fallen.
Sixth-dimensional being.
Yeah, and they live hundreds of thousands of years in one life. But he's not physical. He's a higher dimension. It's kind of like, the position on Earth was called Marduk, or Duke of the Sea, Duke. So he controls the currents of the life force. God's source is like a circuitry board. It's like a power system, and it goes through here and here and here, and it's actually controlled by various, let's call them universal beings who are responsible to manage energy, and they defaulted from their position. The Earth hierarchy, or the spiritual dimensional control of the Earth, sided with Lucifer, and Earth became a fallen planet. We've been parasited on. I mean, look at the money system. You're just running around and crazy trying to make a living, and when you could just be chilling, man, on the beach, surfing and eating fruit, the airy good food. The natives have it right. You don't need to be clamoring all these material things. They're beautiful, wonderful creations, but look at the poisoning of all the extinction of the species, the desertification of the planet, and we're allowing them to spray us. What the hell are they spraying us with? Chemtrail. So you see there's a concerted effort with genetically altered foods, and I could go on forever listening to bad things. Let's look at the good news. We're free. We're sovereign beings. We're going to realize it. They have no money, and the earth changes. There's earth changes coming. There's natural changes right now. If you look out at Pluto, the ice caps are melting. So that means it's solar warming. And the Venusians told my mentor, Dr. Frank Stranges, in 1972 to talk to a astronomer, look up in space. What do you see? He said, I see a hydrogen cloud. And he started researching, and what does that mean? We are going through a 55 million mile hydrogen cloud for the last 24 years. When that started, the solar system started to heat up. That hydrogen cloud is interacting not only with the sun and the other planets in between outer space. The temperature in outer space is
cold.
Absolute zero. You see all the TV shows, a little pinhole in the seat, popsicle floating away. Right? Even Alien floating away when Sigourney kicked him out of that damn ship. So it's not absolute zero. I think that's 26,000 degrees below zero. Very cold. Very cold. So now it's 10,000 degrees. So you have the galactic central sun here, and our planet is, with all our planets are moving around like this, we're kind of spiraling through space, and we're weaving up and below the plane of elliptic. And when you get to certain levels, they're what are called solar flares. Now imagine a solar flare, which is an S wave. What do you think it does when it hits 10,000 degrees? It's a turbocharge. All of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden, solar flare, the sun's beaming down on Earth. 124 in Palm Springs last week. 120 in Las Vegas. It's not global warming in the sense that the government wants to use that as a method to control you and say you have to go to electric cars so they can flip a switch and no one goes anywhere. It's not caused by cow farts. That's all nonsense.
So you were saying that it's relative to the heating up of other planets.
The solar system is heating up. Now, what's going to happen, do you think, to the satellites? What do you think's happening on ISIS and the space stations? They're having glitches behind the scenes. I know some people at NASA. And things are happening. There's spaceships. The government's had a secret space program going to Mars. The Nazis landed on the moon in 43, and the Russians and the Americans landed landed on the moon in 43, and the Russians and Americans landed on Mars in 63. The Cold War was a lie. It was controlled by the elite families who, when the ETs, the woman I met Eisenhower on Muroc Air Force Base, is now Edwards, and she went into the spaceship, and she said, listen, you got to stop your nuclear testing. You're going to precipitate an axial flip. And they told all the governments that, and they gave them the information. The governments all researched, Russia, China, England, UK, all the superpowers, France, Japan. Everyone got together and go, oh shit, she's right. And they came up with 3 ideas. One, let's explode a nuclear bomb in the upper atmosphere and let all the radiation go out. I'm glad that one didn't go. Yeah, it wouldn't have been allowed anyway. The second one was, let's go underground. We will create our super cities. We'll take all the wealth, and we, the elite, the chosen, the hybrid reptilians, the master race, we will survive while the useless eaters scurry about. That was 2. And number 3 was, let's, get your ass to Mars. We'll make a secret thing and we'll survive out there. Well, they've been working with other extraterrestrial races. They have bases on Mars and asteroids. The Venusians know this. They're watching patiently while these little children are thinking of Stevie Windward. The low spark of high heel boys. We were children once playing with toys of mass destruction. Ridiculous what we're doing. All that money, all that attention, all that knowledge put into greed, power, control, manipulation, and destruction. Meanwhile, they just get the richer and live their pathetic lives filled with tinsel and trash while they destroy the earth and cause suffering and killing millions and millions of people. It's done. They will no longer be on the planet. They will not be able to stand the vibration. These souls from the solar radiation is stripping away, causing genetic changes. Let's talk about the solar cloud now. As we move into the solar cloud, we're going to be in it for another 100 years. What does that mean? That means that the changes within also the magma, what we call the telluric shift, not telos, but telluric and magma is moving. It's shifting around. The ancient vortexes that were supposed to be spiritual were controlled by the dark forces, and they had a vice lock. It's kind of like a frequency sound system controlling and putting people into just suffering, suicidal. They can control a lot of stuff because they can create your body. They know how you work. Gaia TV doesn't want it. Contact in the desert, they don't want the truth from the real contactees. They want to feed you, well, maybe this, and the people get on television.
And so on that, I've been watching, I'm reading Stephen Greer's book. I acknowledge one of his first ones.
He's a mind-controlled DOD agent since the age of 15. A little bit of homosexual program there. Sorry, Stephen. That's say.
So you wouldn't say he's a good guy?
He's mind controlled. He's part of a disclosure project. There's good and bad guys in these programs. And he was at very early age. He went to college in the Siskiyous here with Barack Obama, who's Hitler's grandson. And
Barack Obama.
I got pictures. We'll show you later if he wants to photograph him and insert them in. I don't know if you want the edit.
You have a great slideshow. Before the podcast started, we watched some really awesome slideshows Robert put together. And I really liked it in the sense that, I'm not sure what the perspective of Stephen Greer is from you, but
I believe he's a nice guy. He's telling some stuff. He's charging $5,000 for a Skywatch to see UFOs. A little out there. Come to my conference for $50. That covers the expenses of the guy that came from South America to show you.
He was the one who promoted and has popularized CE5 protocol, though, hey?
He didn't create CE5. A friend of mine named Gus did.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So he popularized it. He kind of whatever you want
People
to say.
thought, what's the thing? And of course, it's always been going on. If you have the right feelings, if you're looking and you're humble and you sincerely want to know.
And to explain CE5, I don't know if you definitely do a better job, I assume, than me,
Okay,
but it's
go ahead.
pretty simple. It's that you go out to a place where there isn't any lights, right? That you would be able to see the stars. You meditate and you clear your intention or bring in loving intentions, and then you visualize yourself with where you are on Earth going up, and you astral travel up, and then you ask beings of benevolent nature to, say hello to you. Is that generally the process of CE5?
I think generally, I think that's a process. It doesn't, you can't sell or market or make it happen. It can happen for a housewife looking there and a spaceship comes out and the lawn looks out, and there's the bad guys and the good guys. The bad guys are gone. They have ulterior motives and different things about hybridization and taking babies from women and all that kind of stuff. It's a very complex subject, and if you get too far into it, let's just look at them. I like to call them space family. And they look different than us, and some of them have a right. You made a soul contract when you took on a human form, when you came from another world system, that you look different. And I can show you pictures of crazy looking ETs, and you go, whoa, 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 you'd be freaked out. But we'll eventually come to that understanding. And you realize that they will blank your memory. Some good guys will too, because they don't want you traumatized. And eventually people are going to wake up, and we're coming close to the big reveal. It's like the ba 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 ba, the orchestra, and getting ready. The curtain's going to open up on the greatest show on earth.
Do you think that certain people receive this information? Certain people get it because they can handle it more? Do you think that there's some sort of energy or some sort of soul contract, which is why, for instance, you have come to a lot of this information and or connections and experiences with physical beings? Do you think that's a part of a reason why I have had such a strong inclination to understand certain parts of these things?
I definitely feel you have anyone who's in this and feeling, and you're looking at the government and you're not following orders. When they say wear a mask, do this, do that,
bad boy.
You recognize tyranny. You look at the show and they start talking about the financial system, your mind goes blank, and something in your head says that is all. You could put 1,000 cuss words, and those people don't know what the hell they're talking about. Meanwhile, they had the bailout where they were all laughing. Ladies and gentlemen, money is the root of all evil, the misuse of money, and that's how Satan has controlled the world, through the financial system. What does money represent? It represents your energy and time, and they've been stealing it left, right, and center. Big credit card companies and hiding the money, and you can't transfer money immediately. Of course you can. They're stealing at every level. It's like the people who own the mines. They build the town, and then the people earn the money in the mines, and they buy the food from the mine-owned store. It's a cycle of steal. And mankind has to awaken to the game and to become cooperative. Okay, my backstory is I was born in San Francisco, moved to Phoenix when I was 6 months old, and my mother moved to Laguna Beach. My great-grandmother was Catherine Tiffany, and she married a guy named Irving Romer, and they had my great-grandmother's father created glass, and his brother did a jewelry company, kind of famous. And they were, she was like a debutante, famous, and she helped finance Mary Baker Eddy and Ernest Holmes of religious science and science of the mind. She was hanging out and doing seances with Harry Houdini. She was quite metaphysical and spiritual. And my mother ended up living with her a bit in the early days, in the 40s or 30. My mom was born in 34. She passed away, and I grew up in Laguna Beach, a beautiful town. I mean, you've probably seen it on reality TV,
right?
And they show Housewives of Orange County. All the pictures are in Laguna because we have the most beautiful beaches in the world. Although it's kind of polluted, but it's really beautiful. Nothing in Florida. They have beautiful beaches, but because of the weather, everything gets cold north of us. So these are the best beaches where you can swim. I was a swimmer, a lifeguard, surfer, and I met this scientist named Fred Bell. His great uncle invented the telephone. His father invented the automatic transmission, the alternator, and he was conscripted in the Air Force. He worked on the early warning radar at 20 years old. The UFOs were coming in at 15,000 miles an hour during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he would fill out a report, go UFO, and they would burn them. And they said, "What are you doing?" And they were going. The watch commander, when they were setting it up, they go, "Who's in charge of this new radar set?" That 20-year-old kid out there, Private Bell, 20 years old, and the most powerful radar in the world at Point Reyes, California, and in Alaska. He was at Point Reyes, the continental United States. He was, if anything went down on that thing, he would be the one to go, "Send me in a 20-foot cable of a," So he was
somebody you knew and worked.
Yeah, he's a genius. He was my teacher, guide, mentor, and fellow contactee. We were beamed aboard a Pleiadian ship in 1987. So I had a lot of experiences with him in my youth. And so after I said the Pyramid Man and learned that story, I went up and met him, and I started doing things like painting his house and just serving him. And we would have these experiences at night. He taught me some things about meditation and metaphysics, and we traveled the country selling pyramids in the National Health Federation. So, and I started having my other experiences and learned, and it's just progressed throughout my life. And I met a being named Mabaji in 1978 when I was 22.
Is that your first encounter?
My only encounter.
Your only encounter
with Babaji.
He's a
Mahavatar.
Mahavatar.
Yeah. Okay. You can research him. He's Yogananda. He was a teacher of Mahari Mahesa, Sri Yukteswar Yogananda. And there's another gentleman I knew named Norm Paulson. And he was the son-in-law of a famous contactee in the desert. So there's a lot of UFO spiritual knowledge. I hung out at Laguna Beach. We had Krishnas, we had Rajanishis, Timothy Leary, and there was, George Adamski, the first contactee, lives in Laguna. So I just have been bought up into that. Doesn't make me special. I'm just a postman delivering a message. And for God's sakes, anyone who knows me, if I can have these experiences, you can too. It doesn't make I'm a postman, just a postman.
It's an interesting point because, I've researched it a lot, and I think
stamps have gone up. Go ahead.
I've researched it a lot. I'm very fascinated by it. I feel connected psychically to these types of things, and I've never actually had an encounter of any sort.
You may have, and you wouldn't know it. How old are you?
21.
Oh my God. You'll have plenty of encounters. Come back here in Mount Shasta in 2 years. There's going to be landings.
What was your first encounter like, and what kind of emotions did that stir up in you?
My first encounters were seeing them
physically. So the first encounter ever wasn't through a dream, or it wasn't through some other.
Well, the first encounter was when I was 8 years old. My mom, it was a racial tension time, and I was at a school, and it was in Altadena. There was black and white tension there. I didn't really understand it, and they're coming in my face, white boy. We played this game, and they were like, and I don't understand why. I was like, it was just kind of, it was me then. I came from Laguna. My mom moved there when I was 8 to make my future stepfather marry her. She left and said, "You're not going to marry me. I'm leaving." And he said, "Wait a minute, come back." So we were only there for 6 months. I asked her, I said, "What's going on?" And it's on my website. I go, "Why is the world such a mess?" And I go, "What's out there?" And she goes, "It goes on forever." And I said, "Hey, I can't go on forever. Are you kidding me?" And she goes, "What do you think's out there?" And I said, And she goes, "A wall?" I go, "Well, maybe." And she goes, "What's on the other side? A chain link fence?" So I thought, I went down into my living room, or my basement. I had a room in the basement, a bed down there. And I looked up, and there was a little window. I was sitting there thinking, and all of a sudden I watched this light. Went right in the middle of the window. And I had my first telepathic encounter.
8 years old.
8 years old. And they told me, "Yeah, everything's going to come to a head, and we're going to take everyone off." And that's what's going to happen.
What about with
at some point for some people?
So it sounds like, is it the Queen of Venus, is this a being that you have met physically?
No, I haven't. Her I've not met. My friend who lived on Venus for 2.5 months got to meet her.
Okay.
I am allowed to contact her and communicate with her, and she sends voice recorded messages.
Could you explain who she is?
She is a woman who was born on Earth in 1585. At the age of 5, her parents gave her to a nunnery. She lived in the Basque region, and she was sent to slave out until she was 15. She was sewing habits for nuns and monsignors. And she said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go visit my brother in Peru. He's a conquistador. I'm going to get myself to Barcelona, and I'm going to get on one of those boats to the New World. That was her mission. She stole a candlestick, cut her hair, dressed like a boy, and was escaping.
In the 1600s.
Year 1600. She's in a hayloft, and a being appears, an angel, crackling and big show, and her name was Katerina. Katerina, Eurasia. He goes, you are beloved of God. Because she's in a Catholic. You're beloved of God. The authorities are after you. Travel only at night. Take the southern, the long route. Continue to dress as a boy. When you get to Barcelona, go see Monsignor blah, 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 and confess that I have come to you, yea and lo unto thee. I don't know what I'm kidding. So this is an ascended master, and I'll tell you who that master is. He's the one known as the good thief, the one who died on the cross with Christ. He was a Robin Hood character, and Christ said, you'll be with me in paradise. And he became an ascended master after Christ was crucified. And he became assigned to Venus as the regent of Venus. Venus, as I said, they were there with the bees, and a group came in 18 million years ago and started splicing them. Some Pleiadians and Aldebarans said, humans and bees, what a great farm worker. So the bees and the humans lost their true genetic line 18 million years ago. By an invasion of a force that was genetically altering them without permission. There's a movie called Prometheus that talks about the tables where they show that genetic altering. That's kind of there's a lot of stuff going on there. So he's the head regent of Venus. Now, queens come and go. They got their genetic line back, and that's in book number 3, Cosmic Rays, Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea to briefly go through a few of these.
Venus Rising,
serials.
all about the history of Venus. And then you got Rockets to Venus. It tells all the lies, everything about all the true information of the space program and how they spin it, keep you in ignorance. Then we go Cosmic Rays, Excellent Adventure. And this is when he's living on Venus and gets caught in a time travel mishap and has to get back to the future. I'm blowing your mind, but you're going to have to read the books and figure it out. They're available on my website or on Amazon. If you're out of the USA, buy them on Amazon because it costs $24 to ship one of these books to Canada, for God's sake. This is Dr. Fred Bell's My Mentor and Guides book that he created. He wrote 4 books, but this was the apex book about his stuff. And this is his technology. I've recreated the original brochure about the necklaces I wear, the jewelry pieces that was hand delivered to the Pleiadians. That's available for free on the website. And this is the book where he wrote originally. I added some information, and we talk about the evolution of the early days and how the information. And this is a friend of mine who was born on Venus, then got in a spaceship, traveled to Tibet, where she lived at a monastery called Katsapuri. He's talking about in the science of Ekankar, which is very similar to the Singhs. The Singh, Kirpal Singh or Guru Nanak, we talked about the Shabda and the sound current and soul travel. That's from Venus.
So do you know like multiple people who have been born on other planets?
Valley of Thor, I met him. He wasn't born. He's a created being. He didn't even have a belly button.
So for beings or for individuals such as her.
She was born she's from Earth. She spent lifetimes on Earth. I could tell you about her, but people just flip it off. The guy's absolutely crazy. He's wearing a pyramid.
I think they're quite nice. I like it.
A lot of things I'm going to say are going to come true. I'm going to make prophecies here.
So I like it. So for her life, like if she's living, where did you say, in the UK right now?
No, she's living in Missouri.
Okay. So like for the first period of her life, if she was born on a different planet, do you have any idea of like, does she have like birth certificate, blah, 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 blahs, like all of that documentation stuff? Or
Oh,
do
yeah.
you know what that might look like for a life?
Yeah. She came here and she checked in with customs and showed her Venusian powers, and she was granted Earth citizenship. No, it's all clandestine, bro. How did she get here? You can read her book, a 3-part trilogy. Now, it's her book, but it's an incredible book. She has 3 parts. From Venus I Came. And the second part, Angels Don't Cry. And when I read it, I cried like a baby. How she looked at the earth and what we do to each other, my God. And she's forgiven everyone. And she's about this tall. She's super sweet. And amazing sweetheart. And last one is my message. She's old now. She's going to be ascending soon, as will be my friend Raymond Keller. And the last book I'm going to show you was given to me by Colonel Wendell Stevens. You've heard about Contact of the Pleiades. All the talk about the Pleiades started with this contact. And I was present with Fred Bell, was having contact with the same woman, Semyasi.
And I feel like a lot of people who are watching this may not know much at all about the Pleiades. So you need to keep that in mind as far as the context is.
The Pleiades is the 7 sisters. It's in the Taurus cloud. It's near the galactic central sun. There's a main star system there called Alcyone. And we revolve around the galaxy with them. And they're kind of like, we would be kind of, there's many federations and alliances out there, many dimensions. And it's so
crazy. Is
crazy.
A real photo?
These are real photos, yeah.
That is so high def. That is like the highest def photo I've ever seen.
So, we were having, this is the woman I met. I had a contact experience of being aboard the ship in 1989, a mother ship, with him physically. And we beamed down to his living room. Ripley's Believe It or Not.
I used to love those books. I collected all of them as a kid.
I did too. I love those
books.
books.
We're like so similar. It's crazy.
Did you like the Hardy Boys before your time? No.
Hardy Boys? I don't know who that is.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, so take that up to the camera. This is 0002. So
they can zoom in.
Yeah.
I'll zoom
So the guy who has 001 is a one-armed farmer named Billy Meyer. This guy's had more experiences than anyone. He was traveling to other galaxies. He was going on board with her constantly. He was one of the most, the contactee that blew the lid off of everything. In the 50s, the Venusians had a lot of experiences with a lot of people I did know. Now, them I didn't know. And I asked the Venusians, I said, I kind of felt like the Pleiades were identified with them. And they said, no, your contacts with Fred Bell were real. And when you're beamed aboard, that was Semyasi. They did say that. Now, the Pleiadians and the other races that are not part of our confederation, there's someone who says there's confederation doesn't exist. It does. It's comprised of 601 worlds and 51 solar systems, including Alpha Centauri, Proxima Centauri, Sirius A, B, and C, and Wolf 56 and Arcturus. I'm going to ask them. Maybe we'll get the answers for the other.
Who is the most popular or the most well-known people on social media who are informed and are updating people on these things?
I'm not going to talk about that. There's people who have a lot of good information, very well intended. Some are real. And I did ask the security chief along. I said, people are saying, you don't know this, and I'm following this person. I don't care who you're following. Whatever you say or think is not going to change the fact of my experience or that I'm a representative of the Galactic Federation of Light. And I'm saying that with my typical Aries bravado and who I am in 50 years of face-to-face contact. I'm not here to sway you, convince you. I'm here to give you information of a spiritual nature and of a metaphysical nature to get your mind to wrap around the truth of what's been happening on the planet.
Absolutely.
And it's time for us to come together and create natural organic gardens, to create new platforms of relationship, to have right meditation, right recreation, right livelihood. And we got to stop killing life on the planet. That includes babies. You have to take responsibility. Women have a right to choose. Yes. But we have to create a culture that honors and respects life. And we procreate, and we're very careful with what we do. We can't be popping babies out and killing them because it's inconvenient and we don't have the money to, and the guy left us. So both men and women have to be responsibility. The women, unfortunately, bore the brunt of that. And we just say it's murder. Oh, yeah. Do whatever you want. Your karma will be whatever it is. Okay?
Do you think there is negative karma to getting yourself in a circumstance where you're going to have a child and then having to get an abortion?
If you have an abortion, there's consequences. I'll just say that.
That would have some sort of an
everyone has consequences. I was probably a murderer in a lot of time. We've all been in wars and done things that we didn't know, that we were misled into believing.
Some sort of energetic thing.
We have no culture here. This is not a super culture. We don't know where we come from. We don't know what's going on. And let's call it Satan has manipulated the system to distract us into materialism and ignorance.
One of the things that the reason I asked that question about social media is because I believe I was watching one of your podcasts and I heard
Did you hit like and subscribe?
I did.
Okay. Because it's not monetized. It's not.
I heard the name Elena Danan, and a couple years ago I seen stuff of her and stuff of a few other people. And then obviously I was also watching and reading a book by Stephen Greer, and there was a point where
Stephen Greer's, he's playing a part.
Okay.
He says there's no negative aliens. They're not so much anymore, but there's an agenda with a mind control subject. The government.
Yeah. So the thing that I was connecting to with that is we talk about people who are, having some aspect of the truth related to what they're pushing out. And it's hard for people to understand who has a lot of information and is giving them a lot of truths and just a lot of details that have been hidden from them, and people who are utilizing psychological warfare, part of some sort of psyop and whatnot.
There's a lot of that, and a lot of well-intended people who actually have real experiences buy into some of the psyop, and that would include me. I'm not saying know everything. He's Stephen Greer. I just know from Andrew Basaggio and Willem Stillings that you were involved in the government DOD programming here at College of the Siskiyous. I know Military Pass Road. I know the government's secret base where they harness the underground vortex of the real portal here on the mountain. So I know the government stuff going on here, and I know that you were part of that program. I know that Andrew Basaggio was in a jump room and went to Mars with Obama. I know Obama is Hitler's grandson, and I have photographs and evidence to prove it. All this is going to come out. It doesn't matter. Don't obsess on the past and the mechanizations. Step into the light. Focus on the light within yourself and all things that are good, all things that are of importance. And remember, love is always patient. Love is always kind. Love is full of forgiveness. And I can have all the knowledge in the world. I can have all the charity. I can do all the good works. If I don't have love, I'm nothing but a clanging bell. And that was the message that the moon-based commander Clarion, the sixth dimensional oversoul, Commander Aura Rains, who spoke with the founding fathers, read to me. And because I'm very intellectual and I just have tons of knowledge, but I have love. And everything I did was motivated because I realized in my youth when I saw the situation, I said, wow, UFOs are the keys to Earth's destiny. And not the UFOs, not the spaceships, but the knowledge and the information that's coming in. That's why when a spaceship landed in front of me, and I had a telepathic communication that was sitting there pulsing on the ground with three other witnesses, I was crying and everything. It's very, very emotional for me. And she said, now you know, and that's what I've been screaming at her. I just want to know. I just want to know. The lights were following me down and pulsing and love waves coming right outside my window. And at 3 a.m. after I'd been taken up out of body, and she said, now you know. And I thought, wow, this is great. And then I said, why don't you come out? And she started laughing, so I'm crying through my tears. And then she goes, no, you think you're the Messiah. And the military guy who had broke his mind control was working directly with them against the he's been wanted for years. He's probably living upstairs now. But he was telepathic too. And he looked at me and he said, have you seen enough? And I looked at him and I said, Yeah, she's not coming out. It says, I know. So there's a spaceship on the ground, and I turned away. And another guy was over there, goes, hey, where are you going? The spaceship's still here. And I looked at him, I said, she's not coming out. In the corner of my eye, I saw a little movement and was gone. Amazing. And when it came, he goes, she's here now. And I looked up, and there was a light in the sky, and then it was like, woo, woo, woo. So this type of experience is not a light in the sky. It's not an abduction. This is a series of step-by-step progressions in knowledge and teachings of me understanding their technology, them appearing to me on multiple occasions and showing themselves to me in the desert and other things, and coming into TikToks and coming to lectures and me seeing them and things like this. And so finally I was rewarded with an open contact in 2007 in Las Vegas. Valiant Thor's wife, the blonde woman, hasn't aged a bit, sitting in the back, smiling and smiling. They look like teenagers. The vivacious energy, the frequency of them is so joyful and happy. It's very special. And the security chief of the Charanuna, which is the name for the Venusian angel force security that watches all Venusians and starseeds on the earth, was incredible. And then I found out later he was one of the magi at Christ's birth. So they do focus on the teachings of Christ as a Venusian, and now kind of supreme commander of the cleanup, I'll say, in the galaxy. We'll say that. Although some of the Pleiadians would disagree, it's okay. The Pleiadians are very materialistic, very scientific. Sirius and Venus is very, very highly spiritual evolved on that level, as are many others. There's a being that came into a meeting in Las Vegas where I was initiated into the Order of Melchizedek, and he wasn't there at the beginning. And Dr. Frank said, we're going to initiate you in the Order of Melchizedek. I was kind of embarrassed. I was like fidgeting, and he goes, stand up, and everyone get around him. And all of a sudden I see this guy in the room. He wasn't there on Friday, he wasn't there on Sunday, but there he is at right before lunch. And this guy stands up, and I look at him, and everyone put their hands on my shoulder. And this guy came over, and his eyes, I just started getting like, whoa. And he had like hair, and he looked in my eyes, and he put his hand on my head, and I felt this electric flame and a volt in my body. And as I recited the oath, and I finally asked Valiant Thor, I said, who was the guy who initiated me? He goes, oh, that was Unaya. He comes from a planet with he comes from a solar system with so many planets, they name it by a number. And I have a recording of Valiant Thor telling who he is and who the other members of his crew are. So we're looking at another level of disclosure. Mine is very similar to Elena Denon. Elena Denon has her own experiences. She does have a microchip, and I've talked to Valiant Thor.
Microchip.
She was abducted by the Greys, and to save her, they rescued her, got her out of the ship, but they couldn't take the microchip out without exploding her brain, so they simply reprogrammed it. It gives her a special connection. She has endless videos. She definitely knows how to monetize. She's a nice, a sweet person. She's a good artist. She's actually an Egyptologist researcher, and she's had some very high-level experiences physically. She's met Valiant Thor, his wife, been inside the planet. I don't want to create any rancor. We have different opinions. I asked her, she said there's bad people in Telos, and I can tell you that that's not true. The government has bad people. The Telosians are Venusians from the fifth dimension, and it's still a light. It's still a powerful civilization. So she's making some things that I would disagree with. It doesn't matter. And this is where I was talking about Elam. I asked him, I said, why don't you just land? Because Alex Collier's people are arguing with these people and this person. The followers get to these camps and they want to argue on something they don't even know about. And, I may have things wrong. Elena has things wrong. Even Ground Command has some things wrong. It doesn't matter. We're all working towards the light. He said, Rob, there are countless federations. Each federation has an agenda. Each solar system in that federation has an agenda. Each planet in that solar system has an agenda. Each ET making a contact has an agenda.
Mm.
And so there's a different things. And of course, the number one determining factor is the understanding and the viewpoint or apperception of the human programmed. I mean, there's a guy with the Michael Sala, a really sweet, down-to-earth military guy. He's called JP. And he's having very elevated experiences in the secret space program. And he is going in spaceships and he's taking rides. It's kind of government controlled because they don't want the information out. They're trying to keep it. The ETs say, you release it now. You got to tell. Because the way that it happened originally when Valiant Thor landed on the Earth, they have to go through the representative government. And even though they're parasites, they're not human, and they wanted to deny us.
Oops.
The governments, the people in control, the powers, the Black Sun, the elite families, the Rothschilds, or the Rothschildians, as we call them, Clinton, the Rockefellers, these elite black nobility families in Italy and China, all around the world, who have behind the scenes felt so arrogant. They control all the money, all the banks, they own all the corporations, and they create all the poisons that kill you. And they maintain their power by keeping you in ignorance. So Valiant Thor has to go through the governments, and the government, he went to Eisenhower. Eisenhower said, yeah, let's do it. And who's in charge? The Joint Chiefs of Staff and the big money people. The president of the free world, the guy who won World War II. No, not the most powerful people. World War II people, the people that created the war made money on both sides. Hitler didn't die. He went down to Antarctica. I have pictures of him. I'll show you what they look like. Joseph Mengele.
Is there an entrance to Inner Earth at the bottom of Antarctica?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a lot of entrances, and Dr. Frank Strange has created a beautiful thing.
I think one in Mount Shasta.
Yes, there's several entrances.
Have you ever been in them?
No, I have not.
Do you know where they might be?
I know it's a general area of two, and I know exactly where one is, but it's cloaked. A guy went in, and I was the first person to talk to him and interview him. I asked him. He said, oh, yeah, I went inside, and the door opened up. And I knew this area. Actually, when I first got here, I go, that area, there's like a thing, and I think there's an air entrance there, and you can't climb it. If you to climb it, they would just close it. But I always go, that area looks like an entrance where they take air in. And sure enough, right at the end of that area, he was sitting there. He was a TM meditator, and his AirPods went out. All of a sudden, he felt a breeze, and he stood up, and the door opened up, and the guy said, would you like to enter Telos? And I knew he was real. And I'm going to tell you all, look up Telos Sharula Ducks. She has a 12-part series. She was born in there. She violated some laws and was forced to come to the surface. When she first came to the surface, she contacted the guy that was sitting next to me and said, where are you going? The spaceship's not here. Michael Lejean. And before we had that experience, there was a guy named Bill Hamilton, researcher, and that's who Bonnie went to. And my friend was there, and she revealed that she came out. She said who she was, and her skin is translucent. And a Pleiadian I met, their skin is different. You can see in there. And hey, I got lots of stories of reality there. So Valiant Thor took the message to the people, and they couldn't. So they've been working behind the scenes and contacting people in military, finance, music, prints, and science, arts, finance, clandestinely. They don't even know it. You could be living next to a Venusian, and finally one day they're going to know, yeah, I'm from Venus. Well, you're a really nice guy. So there have been resident aliens here, step down, so get off the ships and walk amongst us. Get off the ships maybe with a different body than they normally have. They have bases all over the planet, and they've been fighting clandestinely and inserting people in positions to take down the dark side. The fallen Anunnaki, they're hybrid humans, and their control of the suffering on Earth. So I'm going to recommend people look at Kim Gogan, research that, United Network.
I was going to ask you,
I follow her.
Everyone,
she gets a lot of heat. She is a tigress for the light. She's knocking their teeth out. People can't even comprehend what she's doing.
What's like a handful of other people who you'd be like, if you wanted to research this, if you wanted to take this as like okay, let's really get
Raymond Keller, look at all of his books. Research George Adamski, George Fantassel, Gabriel Green, the early contactees. We stand on the shoulders of them. There's so many contactees. I would say research everyone with an open mind. What resonates, take it. Everyone has a different viewpoint. Some people have one experience and never have another. Some people have ongoing contacts or ongoing information. I've taken up the position as a postman. And believe me, I got mud on my wheels. My uniform's dirty. Don't associate my personal blemishes with the message. And as long as I keep true and honest, the Venusians say, with all the information coming out, they say their duty to the Queen is to tell only the truth. And let us do with it. They're not interested in talking about politics. They have told me things about the scientific conditions and different things, but their mission is to inculcate because it's of God. You want to study one thing? Study the Gospel of Thomas, study the life of Jesus Christ, and listen to the life, not to shove Jesus down your throat. I believe in Jesus and I'm saved and you're not. Ain't true, folks. There's a lot of people who claim Jesus, 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 and they don't open their doors when a homeless person knocks. The church is shut off. They're telling people what to do. But there's many churches that you go to when there's hurricanes, the community comes together. So that most of the religions are well and good, and most of the followers are well intended. But just like the people who are in the military, you are a tool of the bad force. And God bless the preachers who want to bring you to the teachings of God through the life of Jesus Christ, but they want to deny other expressions. God would make allowances for other religions and people in China who don't speak English, never heard of Jesus Christ. They have other great teachers too. Lao Tzu, you got all these great, Lady Mazu, the woman who calmed the Jade Ocean. There's so many of these great souls. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, he probably had a contact with the Venusians. I mean, there's so many great souls who have told the truth of God, and we're looking for a formula. Follow this, get on your head, stand up every day, shake your incense, turn 3 times and say Jesus. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
It's a particular protocol.
Yeah. They say, I said, is there any practice? They said, Rob, far from any practice. Be kind. Be patient. Have compassion. Help your fellow man. These are the things that we're looking for. And if everyone could do unto others, you don't go to war and shoot someone because someone ordered you to. That's not doing unto others. That guy was told to go shoot you. Meanwhile, the people that make money on the wars and ordered sit behind and go, and what do they do that for? Because the fallen beings come down and literally feed on blood. Scary, right?
When do you think I could have a podcast with a being who wasn't native to Earth and they would be openly...
Her name is Omnek, and she's doesn't have technology, and she's moving back. I just had an interview with her. We had technical difficulties, but
you did just have an interview.
She has said
you were almost having.
You want to go to Missouri and hang out, or she'd be just sweet. She's super sweet, and take her out to dinner and treat her nice. And she
take her out to dinner and do that. What are they like?
I don't know. I mean, she's not there for money. She's been living there for 15 years, so she's kind of completed her mission. But she's sending Raymond is sending me some new information that she couldn't release on the phone. So
okay,
I'm going to get some.
And she's a being. She's a being from
the sixth dimension.
And in a human body form. In
a physical body.
The physical body.
And this
is her that you were talking about.
This is my roommate's book. He actually got it.
Okay.
But this one is really let you understand. So
okay.
My website, thepromiserevealed.net, insert this 5 times into the video. Check it out. Research it. I have an inner circle. If you want to see the videos of the Venusians. They've requested, and in the teachings, do not cast pearls before swine. In other words, only to receptive audiences. They don't want their images out there. They do have missions on the earth, and they don't want it to be trolled. So I charge $59, or you can come to my conference. You can't record it. You can listen to these messages. Some have redacted information.
You do have some publicly on your podcast, though, right?
Oh yeah, all of the videos of the Moonbase Commander. I can show you what she looked like in the 50s.
When do you think like a major podcast with one of these beings who have a story like hers will be out and people will start regularly
If
being
you've got
introduced?
videos, research Omnic. It's called VenusSpirit.com. You can hear her talking all day long.
But on, like, for instance, the people who have some of the bigger platforms, when do you think that their presence will be known to lots of
You
people?
mean like Ancient Aliens and the History Channel? Control, manipulate, lie. You just bring researchers on and always saying, they go, what do you think about the dark side? And then you have the light and love coming information and go, well, the dark, and they'll speculate on that. And then
more like podcasts, like Joe Rogan or something. When do you think of
I'm open for Joe Rogan.
When do you think like a Venusian or something like that would openly go on to Joe Rogan and say, hi, I'm from this place.
A Venusian
this is my history.
Anywhere, Prince was having contact with Venusians. You saw the image. He changed his name to a symbol. That's the symbol of Venus, more or less.
It was supposed to be a symbol of like no sex. Was that one of the intentions as well too? That was my understanding of it, I guess.
Yeah, that guy was kinky.
Yeah.
I remember when he came out with Raspberry Beret, he was wearing like yellow plastic pants and his butt hat was clear. And a friend of mine goes, that guy's a great artist, but I know he has sex with billy goats.
There's a song called like Mr. Nelson and a few things.
I don't know.
Like,
he was a very special,
like,
sensitive guy.
Right.
And he was very smart. He didn't let the music corporation control it. He produced everything. And he was one of the smartest, most intelligent, most versatile and creative artists.
Yeah, I like his
music. You can't judge people. That's one of the problems. We're judging others. We have bigotry and hatred and religious dogma and look at the road rage. We're not ascending to the fifth dimension.
Look at the road rage.
We got to love each other. I mean, I watch these road rages things and it freaks me out. Thank you so much for having me.
Last thing before we wrap up, could you explain to us what your technology is here?
Thank you. Okay, this particular device is related on the pyramids. So this is It's like a satellite dish. You want to zoom in on this a little bit?
We'll be able to do that in post.
Okay, so there's 144 pyramids in a concentric Fibonacci spiral. Okay? And the parabolic lens, the frequency, if you were to measure this, it's like the giant SETI down in Puerto Rico. It's this giant dish, and in the center they have an emerald. Emerald is the middle of this frequency, and it's submerged in hydrogen. So that's the center of the color frequency, and that's where light comes, and they're searching for light. I believe they found a lot of it. So this is 22.3 megahertz. So this is a frequency of a satellite, 22.3. What is that? That is the frequency that your DNA replicates. So your DNA is like a ladder. It separates like this, and it starts calling out nutrients of adenine, guanine, phytosine, cytosine, all the DNA amino acids that make your thing to rebuild it. So this is the technology. What happens is we have all these things assaulting it, made by very intelligent beings with very high technology, buttressed by frequencies in your cell phones, in your house, in your car, and in these gosh darn sneaky glasses.
You don't like these, eh? They freak you out.
I don't care. I want some.
You want some? They're pretty cool.
I want to go piss off cops and cradle. No. Look, cops are good and bad. They do great things. They protect you, but there's
so essentially with this technology, when
you wear it, and I'll show you a video. I'll give it to you if you want to play it.
Yeah.
And it shows that when you're wearing this, when toxins assail you, you become weak. But when you're wearing this, you stay strong. So it's really strange. I could breathe airplane glue. You can muscle test me, and I'm this strong. Okay, then I can breathe airplane glue. My arm will go weak. Or I can hold a 5-pound bag of sugar. If it caused my pancreas to go into spasm, I'd be weak. Now I can hold a 5-pound bag of sugar and smell airplane glue, and I'll test strong with this. This sends a frequency to hold the DNA. It's like saying Om. Meanwhile, all the other frequencies around you, the food, the genetically altered food, the heavy metals in your food, the cell phone, the chemtrails, you name it, you probably could list 1,000 things, the impure water, all that stuff, the fluoride calcifying you, is designed to make you weak. This makes you impervious. And for some reason, which the Pleiadians hand-delivered this to my mentor on Christmas Day in 1975, and he said, Rob, you coming up? And I go, yeah, it's Christmas. I'm just coming up. I came up there, and he said, last night, he went over the hill there, and she picks him up, and I was lying in her lap and stroking my hand. She gave me this design. He showed me this design. And at that point, it was 4. We turned it into Wave in.
There's a few different designs, right?
Yeah, with different designs. And we couldn't make it. It was 1975. We had a jeweler try to make it. It was a pretty poor facsimile.
Trying to make a few of these specific
out of wax, just by
geometry
making a clay thing and then casting.
to try to replicate that frequency to therefore get these effects.
Then we got some AutoCAD work, and we made a printer, and we could stamp them out in cadmium and zinc. And then finally we got into, now we're 3D printing, baby. Super accurate.
High tech.
I mean, these are more accurate than ever before. They have a
photos.
Cassegrain wave trap, a yin yang. This is an Andromedan holographic projector, and this merges timelines and kind of fixes problems before they even goes back into this. It's kind of crazy.
So it's based off the frequency that the geometry and the things that's made out of are making.
There's a gemstone as a filter. So different gemstones have different frequencies affecting different
I was going to ask about how it's different from people who wear gemstones.
And we have charts in that. And here's a chart right here. So you see the different colors, the different stones, the different emotional states, the different endocrine glands, the different hormones, the different notes of the musical scale, and how that works. You can check it out, the PromiseField.net shop, Promise Pyramid Systems.
Would you say this is like a very, very, very high-tech amplified version of gemstones?
That's why people value gemstones in the old days. We hoard them as ostentatious displays of wealth, but the ETs and the Mayans, that's why they mistook the Spaniards, because they go, oh, the return of the gods, right? Quetzalcoatl was using gold to meditate, because gold is pyramid shaped. It's like meditating in gold. That's why the Buddhist temples are covered in gold. You know, and you're meditating. And why do people value diamonds? They're shaped like a pyramid. Why did the priests lay out on the slabs and put crystals around them at the solstice? To bring in the energy of the frequencies of the universe, because they actually work with them. And so can you. For only $9.99. Look, these products cost money, and I share the knowledge for free. So check it out. It's Promise Revealed. And you're a great guy, Tom.
Thank you.
And so are you, Cedric, the cameraman, hidden behind the scenes, the silent power behind Mr. Goddard here.